It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. Welcome to the Dep Lewis Show, episode 146. This is your host, Dep Lewis, and today is Sunday, September 14th, 2025. A great day for a podcast about video games and more, so welcome to it. I hope you're doing great out there in the world, wherever and whenever you're listening to this. Thank you so much for being here. The first order of business is to ask you to follow Dep Lewis Show everywhere. Full episodes of Dep Lewis Show available anywhere you can find a podcast. Find the best place to subscribe and listen weekly. Places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Amazon Music, and more. YouTube is also a great place to watch me play some games live or check out the videos later. If you would like to support the show even further than just listening, patreon.com/Dep Lewis Show is available if you'd like to subscribe monthly. Also, Venmo at Dep Lewis Show is available any day, anytime, for any amount if you would like to support the show. And this show I keep talking about for today is going to have three sections as always. The first section, I'll tell you about what video games I've been playing since I've last talked to you on this microphone. The mid section, which is not mid in quality, is where I tell you everything you need to know going on around the video game world. And there was an exciting event that took place in the past week, so there's some pretty good video game news to tell you. And the third and final section is a break from the video game talk, and that is it's the Miscellaneous talk section, and usually where I get into the worldwide world of sports and tell you what is going on with all my favorite teams. And this is a NFL Sunday. This is the second week of the regular season. The great mighty Carolina Panthers are taking on the Arizona Cardinals in the desert this afternoon. It's a later start for them. It's a 4 p.m. start for the Panthers today, trying to get their first win of the season. And I do not have high hopes for that, but I'll talk more about that later in this episode. But let's get into the video game stuff first, because that's the main thing I'm serving up here, some video game talk. So let's get into what I've been playing since I've last talked to you. And I've not made too much progress in the past week. I really didn't play too many video games, but I did jump back into a video game, and that is Super Mario 3D World. This is a game that I've played a good portion of, I guess, when it released, but I do not believe I ever completed. I have no complaints with this game. I've really only had fun with it. I think I've tried to jump back into it a couple times, and I was just thinking recently, hey, this is one on the list that I need to try to go back to and complete, because I've been on a platformer kick, and this one falls, right in that category. So Super Mario 3D World, I've been playing as Princess Peach in this game, so you're able to play as, I think it's Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Toad. I don't know if there's any other characters in it, but I'm playing as Peach just for some variety, and I think that's pretty interesting because everyone was saying that Peach game by herself was way too easy, and here is an instance where you can play as Peach in a game that does have some platforming, and we'll see how far I guess there is some challenge in this game, and I don't know if the challenge is more platform-based or exploratory based. I think the part that trips me up in these games, like this one and Kirby and the Forgotten Land, but Kirby and the Forgotten Land I ended up completing, but this one I don't think I ever pushed past it. But a lot of times in order to proceed, you need to pay up some stars that you collected along the way. So every level, yes, you can complete the level, but there are 3 stars within the level that you can complete. They're optional, but they're semi-optional because you're going to need them to progress the story some. So this is a thing where you don't have to get them all, but you do have to get a pretty good chunk of them to proceed, and that's something that I need to just get over and complete this game and have it checked off my list of games I've completed, because I've been having a lot of fun with this one. This is the Cat Mario game. If you are confused about which one this is, that's a pretty good identifier. This is the one where you get the cat suit and you can climb up the walls, and the cat almost has like a punch. It's a really great power up for Mario and for Peach and all the other characters that you can use. So this has been really fun. I've been kind of thinking of especially games that I already own, but which games that I would want to play that are already been released on the Switch, going back in the back catalog or over the history of the Switch, what games have I missed? And I'm thinking more so, I know this is kind of a re-release, but this is from the Wii U era, but more so Switch games, kind of like thinking of Pikmin 4, Luigi's Mansion 3, Kirby and the Forgotten Land was one I mentioned, but I did complete that one. But games that were released during the Switch lifetime that I've missed and haven't played, and maybe going back to some of those. So I'm always flip-flopping on what I'm playing and what I'm into, but that's been a little bit of my general thought, and I definitely have been into platformers recently, so I would like to complete some more platformers as time goes on, and this is me making some progress there. So I've been playing some Super Mario 3D World, and I've also restarted a file in Super Mario Galaxy, and that one is available I guess it's not available anymore, but we're going to talk a little bit more about Galaxy in the midsection. But this one, I do have part of the 3D All-Stars collection, which I own digitally, and I kind of do wish I owned that physically. But I started a new file on this, and this is definitely one of my favorite games of all time. It's definitely up there, maybe in the top 5. Maybe it could be my favorite game of all time. And even going back, playing this a little bit, it's just reminded me of what I like so much about this game. The controls, I like the gravity stuff, I like the music. And I don't necessarily like some of the motion stuff, but it's handling it well enough so far early on where it's not too much of a nuisance. And being able to play this handheld is extremely cool. And I think that's always a perk of the Nintendo Switch, but I've been really utilizing the handheldness nature of it more recently and enjoying it. And these games that look really good on the Switch 2, or extra good on the Switch 2, just playing them in handheld is a nice touch. And I do think the Switch 2 is extremely comfortable in handheld. I've been going a little bit back and forth between the OLED and the Switch 2 with the handheld, trying them out, and I think the Switch 2 OLED feels heavier. I think it's heavier, like maybe more in the center mass. I think the Switch 2 kind of distributes the weight better, even though it is a little bit bigger. But I think the Joy-Cons are nicer on the Switch 2. I think maybe the weight distribution is something that I think is nicer, that makes it more comfortable for holding. And I guess the Joy-Cons just in general are nicer for holding, and then the screen's a little bit bigger. So I've been having a great handheld experience, and it's been enhancing Switch 2 and Switch 1 games just from the ergonomics of the device. So that's been something I want to say nice about the Switch 2 for sure to point out there. So I've been playing Super Mario Galaxy. It might be one of my favorite games ever, and it's really up there. Last of Us 2 currently is my favorite game ever if I had to, rock, paper, scissors, shoot and tell you my favorite game. But I think other things have been creeping up there, even in my thoughts of Breath of the Wild I completed. That one's got to be up there. Splatoon 3, even as time goes on, I'm liking that game more and more. Animal Crossing's New Horizons definitely up there. And then there's some older games. These are all kind of more of my recent ones. But there's got to be, it's a pretty good list. One of these times where I need to revisit my favorite games of all time. I think I've done that once on the show, maybe not, but I'm always down for making a list, so I might do that at some point and mark it as a point in time of what my favorites are, like I like to do with the game of the year. So we will see. So I've been playing some Mario games: Super Mario 3D World, Super Mario Galaxy. I think those would be two. Yeah, we're gonna talk more about Mario in the middle section of the show, so we'll just kind of pass on that. And so what else have I been playing? This next bit of news is something that came out of the midsection news because we had the Nintendo Direct. But Persona 3 Reload, everyone already knows that game is coming to Nintendo Switch 2 on October 23rd, 2025, and there is a demo available now. So that's a little bit of the news, a little bit of a appetizer to the Nintendo Direct news. But Persona 3 Reload has a demo available now on Nintendo Switch 2, so you can go play that. And this is a game that I have been really, really into on the PlayStation 5. I started playing it on the Xbox and I started playing it on Game Pass, then got a PlayStation 5 copy, and I've been really, really enjoying this game, and I've always kind of wanted to play this in handheld. I even purchased Persona 3 Portable recently and was kind of talking that up. I think I was really trying to sell it to myself a little more than anything, but I do think it's still a viable way to play that game. But I do think being able to move around in the open world is a real modern touch that you do kind of miss. I don't think it's completely necessary. And I still do hold true because I've gone back and played some more Portable this week that I think both versions are good in their own right and have their differences that are nice on each side. But I think when I downloaded this demo, I was like, because I was sitting there thinking, I'm really wondering if I'm going to buy this in October, if I want to play this, or do I proceed on the PlayStation 5? It's kind of the thing where I'm going to be doing my third start of this game, where I played 20 something hours of it and then restart from scratch. But then I had the brilliant idea. I was like, hey, the demo's available. I looked at your save data carries over, and it lets you play, I think it's 7 hours of the game, 5 to 7 hours. It lets you get to the first boss or something like that, and you're able to get a head start. And I was like, hey, I can go look at what this game's going to look like on the Switch 2. I don't know why I was being so dumb about that, but it's a nice touch with these third-party games because I've been having questions on some of them. So I think more of them should put demos out so you can check them out. I think that is I don't always utilize demos as a means for a purchasing decision because I usually kind of know before playing the demo. But in these cases, I think it's a nice touch because you're able to actually see how it runs. And this game runs extremely well. You can definitely see a little bit of a difference from the PlayStation 5, but I even played this on a Series S back in the day, and I think you can definitely see the upgrade from Series S to Series X. But this game looked fine on the Series S, and I think this game looks really nice. So I've been someone who said that Persona 5 Royal doesn't even look that good on the Switch 1, and I think they should do a Switch 2 version of that, and maybe they will. But this is a great case for the Persona games should be able to all run flawlessly or pretty flawlessly on the Switch 2. And I think that's a great news for games like Metaphor, and for some other games we'll talk about, some other big RPGs coming to Switch 2. But I think there's some pretty positive signs where maybe it was going a little bit negative. I think you'd just have to put some care into your port and consider some things. But I think this game has a perfect art style for not having the most high fidelity graphics, and playing this in handheld was this is going to be hyperbole, but it was an unbelievable feature, and just so nice to be playing this game. I think I've been wanting to have this game on Switch since this game released. I guess it released maybe 2 years ago at this point, maybe just 1 year, but extremely fun. I'm having fun even restarting the game again. I'm kind of doing all the same kind of stuff, but I'm able to, they do have some good fast forward and skipping options and some quick dialogue options in here that help you kind of move the story along. So I'm going to hopefully play this demo, and I think it's completely sold me on, I want to get this game on the Switch 2, and I might just end up buying it digitally because it's a game key card. So I'm unsure about that, because this is going to be a game that takes me a long time to complete, but it would be a game that I love to make some steady progress on over time. But I've been having a whole lot of fun with this game. Persona 3 Reload, the demo available now on Switch 2. Your save data carries over. This game releases on October 23rd, 2025 for $59.99 US for Nintendo Switch 2. It's already available on other platforms, so the release here is for Switch 2. And in Persona 3 Reload, you step into the shoes of a transfer student thrust into an unexpected fate when entering the hour hidden between one day and the next. Awaken an incredible power and chase the mysteries of the dark hour. Fight for your friends, and leave a mark on their memories forever. So a really outstanding game. The music in here is S-tiered, some of the best video game music that you can hear. And the combat's fun. The characters are cool. The story is cool. I think some of the themes and some of the, some of the parallels to real life I think are cool. Even in a high school setting, I think they have some mature themes and things to think about in this game. And I think that's what makes this game so cool. And I think you should try it out. So Persona 3 Reload, I think that's my most anticipated game of the release date right now. And I know that's probably kind of crazy, but I think that is the truth for me over here. All right, so what else is going on with me video game wise? That's been the main stuff I've been playing this week. A lot of Switch stuff, I guess. It's been the year of no direction on this show. I haven't really had any direction for the year, and next year I'm still unsure on what it's going to be. It might be year of the backlog. It might be year of the platformer. Those are a couple things I'm throwing around. It might be year of the favorites. That's one thing I was thinking of going back to some favorites. But my top new game at the moment, I would say, is Donkey Kong Bonanza. I have been a little bit not down on that game, but just not as inclined to go back and pick it up. And as I've been playing some of these platformers, I've been maybe enjoying them a little bit more. So I think maybe some of the destruction stuff and some of the exploratory stuff of Bonanza is not generally my cup of tea. I've been having fun with most of it and want to finish it and want to play more of it, and maybe even go do some of the collectible stuff. But I think I'm just more inclined to more of the standard platformers. But you never know, my taste might change, and I'm glad to have the variety that I'm able to play. So it's pretty cool. But next year I'm still deciding on what it's going to be. But the year of no direction is going to continue for a few more months. I don't know where that's going to take us, but it's going to take us to the Dep Lewis Show Awards at the end of the year, ranking some video games either way. And I still think Mario Kart World is in the lead for my favorite new game of the year. My favorite game from our prior year, I think it's up in the air. I think it's somewhere between Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Breath of the Wild, and I'm trying to think if there's anything else in there. I don't know. We'll have to see, and you'll have to definitely listen to all the episodes of the Dep Lewis Show always, and especially the Dep Lewis Show Awards for 2025, because that's one of my favorite episodes to do each year, is to talk about my favorite things from the year. So that's everything I have for you for this week. I think I'll be playing some of these games in the upcoming week. I've been thinking more and more about how it would be helpful to play fewer games at one time. I think that definitely slows me down. So I've been trying to do that a little bit with Super Mario 3D World, but then, like I said, I've been playing some more of Galaxy. I've been playing some Persona 3 Reload, trying that out. So I think I'm always going to have a couple games going at a time, but I've just been thinking more and more of how to limit that and try to make some progress over here. That's my plan. So that's what I've been playing. That's what I've been doing. And those are my personal video game thoughts for the week. But I have a lot of cool stuff to tell you in the midsection, which is where I tell you about all the video game news that's been happening in the past week. And I already mentioned there was a Nintendo Direct, so that's going to be the main thing we talk about. But there are a few other news pieces and releases to talk about, but the main thing is going to be the Nintendo Direct, so you don't want to miss it. It'll be a lot of fun stuff to talk about. So go take a quick break, listen to this music, and come back for the midsection after this. Welcome back to the midsection of Dep Lewis Show, episode 146. This is where I tell you about what is going on around the video game world that you need to know. And I talked about it a little bit in the first section, but there was a Nintendo Direct that took place last week. This was the big one that everyone was hoping for. And I gotta say, I think this was a pretty good one. There's definitely more than a few things here I'm excited for, and some possible things I'm excited for in the future. So I think they did a good job here. And I'm here to tell you about all the things that I thought were cool from it. So this took place on September 12th, 2025. It's around 60 minutes in length if you want to go watch the whole thing for yourself. There are some cool channels that do talkovers of these. I watched MinMax do this. I saw Heck and Steve did one, and they have those VODs up. So if you want to go watch someone put some commentary over while you watch it, I think that's good. Or if you want to go watch it on Nintendo's channel, you can as well. So I'm not going to talk about all the games and all the announcements. So I always say if you're interested in this, go watch it yourself. But I'm going to tell you about the things that I thought were extra cool and give you the best summary that I can think of. So let's get into the games from the Nintendo Direct. And the first one I want to tell you about is Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. This is a game that's been in development for a long time and has been delayed. And the news here is we finally got a release date for this. So Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is going to release on December 4th, 2025. So only a couple months away. It's coming out for Switch 1 and Switch 2. They show a gameplay trailer that shows Samus riding a motorcycle, which was extremely cool and was extremely selling me on wanting to play this. This game is going to be $59.99 US. The bounty hunter Samus Aran, one of the greatest bounty hunters in the galaxy, capable of completing any mission no matter the danger, finds herself transported to the greenery of an ancient jungle. An alien race that once existed on the planet makes a solemn request of Samus. So a pretty epic return here for a franchise that has a lot of loyal fans, and people have been clamoring for this game for a long time. I do have Metroid Prime Remastered as something I would like to complete maybe before getting into this, but I'm going to be tempted a little bit when this game releases, and it's going to be releasing right before Christmas, 12/04/2025. So a lot of people will probably be asking for this for Christmas this year, be my guess. So some pretty good news there for Metroid fans. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond releasing December 4th. All right, another game that we already knew when this game was releasing, but the news here is some DLC. So Pokemon Legends Z through A is releasing on October 16th for Switch 1 and 2. So that is less than a month away, or just a little bit over a month away if you're listening in real time. The Switch 1 version is going to be $59.99 US, and the Switch 2 version is going to be $69.99 US. So about a $10 upgrade there between the two versions, it looks like. You're invited to join the Z through A Royale, a competition for Pokemon trainers to test their skills and determine who's strongest. But the news here for Pokemon Legends Z through A is they have announced the Mega Dimension DLC. It's been announced and it's going to release on the same day the game releases. So this is, I don't know if this is, I guess this has happened before. We're going to talk about this a few times in this showcase, and this is something that definitely grinds my gears and is probably going to be a growing trend and something that I think is ridiculous and just want to make sure to point out. But Pokemon Legends Z through A has DLC that they're announcing that comes out on release day, and it's $29.99 US. So if you want to buy the whole thing, you got to drop $70 for the base version on Switch 2, and if you want to get the DLC, it's $30. So the whole argument here would be, why not release this with the standard version? And it's because they want to make some more money. So this is going to be, just like I'm saying with the consoles, they're going to start selling it completely piecemeal. They're going to start selling these video games completely piecemeal, where you have to buy the single player separately, you have to buy the multiplayer separately, you have to buy the character to play in the game unless you just want a generic skin. Like, it's going to be, your character doesn't have weapons in the world unless you buy them. You have to unlock a weapon pack. Like, it's getting really, really ridiculous out here. And I know you don't have to buy this, and I probably won't buy this.
and it'll probably be hard enough for me to get through the base game, but it's pretty ridiculous when they're releasing content on the same day as release day. You can see, hold, or at least just give the illusion that you're holding it back for a little bit, give some time, but they're like, nah, you're going to have this on. We want to get this. They're just ready to get that money, I guess is the thing. They're ready to get it up front. So they're dropping DLC on release day, and people are going to, it's immediately having people feel like they don't have the best version of the game too. So it's immediately kind of like poo-pooing on your early adopters. And I guess that's kind of the case what they're doing these days. They really are not giving a shit about early adopters for a lot of electronics, and I guess a lot of video games in general. That's what I mainly talk about in reference, so I think that's mainly the case that I can speak on here, but they really do. They're making the case for early adoption worse and worse, and they're just, I don't think it's going to stop is the other thing. So just interesting here, or not interesting, just kind of, I don't know, kind of a bummer, but the Mega Dimensions DLC is going to release on the same day as the game, 10/16, and expand your adventure in Lumio City with additional story content. Discover 2 Mega Evolutions for Raichu, Mega Raichu X and Mega Raichu Y. So wouldn't it be great to have some additional story content in the base game, and then also have some cool characters that you might want? But no, you have to pay $30. That's ridiculous. That's half the price of the game. So that's a third of the game. I guess that's the fabled $100 price point there. That they're gonna. The games are already probably at this $100 price point for most of them, or even higher, and they're just disguising it a little bit, and they're going to continue to do it like this. So whatever, Pokemon Legends E3A. I've never completed Arceus. I do have some more interest in Z3A. I think it looks good, but I think I'll be thinking about it is the thing. So Pokemon Legends E3A has some DLC that was announced for it that comes out on the day it releases. All right, so what else is going on in the Nintendo Direct? There was another Pokemon game that was announced called Pokemon Pokopia. This has been announced for 2026, so no firm date, but they do say next year. Build the Pokemon Utopia of your dreams in a new life simulation game. Playing as a Ditto that has transformed to look like a human, you can collect wood, rocks, and other crafting materials to create a cozy home. Ditto can learn moves from other Pokemon and utilize those moves to help build your very own Pokemon paradise. For example, Ditto can use Bulbasaur's leafage to add greenery to the landscape, or Squirtle's water gun to hydrate plants. By creating a lush, welcoming environment, more Pokemon will visit. So I think this is a pretty cool concept for a game. I think this will have a lot of fans. This will have some crossover between like Minecraft and Stardew Valley and Pokemon. So they're going for, they're going for a lot of genres together, like a lot of these franchises like to do. I don't think this will be one for me, but I think it looks interesting enough, and was definitely I guess somewhat of a unique announcement from the show. Pokemon Pokopia coming out in 2026. All right, so another instance of some DLC being released shortly after launch of the game. Donkey Kong Bonanza announced some DLC that is currently out right now and available for purchase. So this was announced and released simultaneously. So Donkey Kong Bonanza came out, what was it, July 17th, something like that? And now just, a couple months later, they're releasing some DLC, which is called the DK Island and Emerald Rush DLC. And even a couple months later I feel makes it a little bit better to stomach. But even this, if this was packed in the base game, I think I know people would be excited about it. Why would you not want some modes, even if you don't play them, to be in there as an option? Maybe you would play it. And some people are never going to try this because they're never going to pay the money for it. Probably myself. And I don't think it's going to be the end of the world, but I just think it's a crazy, greedy kind of wild tactic that these companies are doing, and they're doing it more and more and more. But whatever. So Donkey Kong Bonanza has a DK Island and Emerald Rush DLC that's been announced and released. It's $19.99 US. Welcome to DK Island. Your action-packed vacation in the sun and sand starts here. Sightsee across the modern take on Donkey Kong's home, packed with nostalgic views like DK's Treehouse, Gangplank Galleon, and other iconic locations. So this reminds me, I think, a little bit, if I'm remembering this correctly from the Direct, a little bit of like Astrobot having the area that you decorate kind of like as a home base. And I know other games do this as well, but I think a lot of these platformers have been doing this more and more, and it reminded me of that. But also, so that's the DK Island portion, but the Emerald Rush side of it is take on increasingly difficult challenges in Emerald Rush, a mode that plays quite differently from the main game. Collect Emerald Ore and complete side missions to earn exclusive in-game perks. So this one seemed more like a destroy in a certain amount of time kind of mission. So that would definitely not be up my alley. That's kind of been the thing I haven't been enjoying as much while playing this game, and this whole mode would be focused around that. But like I'm saying, if these modes were included in the game, I think Mario Kart does a good job of including a lot of modes. I think Super Smash Brothers does a good job, And I think it would be extra cool if they would release all the content in one package for the normal price. I think it's just ridiculous. And if you want to make some DLC that is really substantial or substantive or whatever the right word is for that, important or impressive, I think do it. But I think these seem like modes that could have been in the base game. They looked at the whole package right before they have to decide on the release date, and they siphoned off a little bit to put for DLC and made a decision and decided on their price and are laughing all the way to the bank. So, whatever. I don't really have any interest in playing this, but it's available right now. Donkey Kong Island and Emerald Rush DLC. All right, what else was announced in this Nintendo Direct? All right, this next announcement is definitely pretty cool. Something I talked about a little bit in the first section or mentioned. Something people have been wanting for a while, including myself. And there is a bundle coming out for Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2. So this is the 40th anniversary of Mario. So that's why they're doing some of this extra Mario stuff going on. And that is, partially the reason they are bringing Super Mario Galaxy 2 out of the vault. So that's really the big news here, because you've been able to play Mario Galaxy on Switch if you own the 3D All-Stars, which is unavailable digitally now, and the physical version I think runs around $90. So definitely expensive. So this will be a way that you're able to play, another opportunity to play Galaxy on your Switch, and also play Galaxy 2 on the Switch for the first time. So these games come to Nintendo Switch in a new bundle October 2nd, so very soon, both physically and digitally. It comes with the new Rosalina Storybook pages. Both titles will feature improved UI, the choice to play with button and stick or motion controls. So I wonder if that'll be different from the version on 3D All-Stars in general. I wonder if you can completely get the motion controls out of Galaxy. I think that would be nice. And I do wonder if there are differences between those two versions. And I think my guess is leaning a little bit towards yes. But they're also saying an in-game music player. Galaxy has amazing music and enhanced resolution. On Switch 2, a free update will bring that resolution up to 4K. So extremely cool. This did get me to dive back into Galaxy 1, and I will be excited to play Galaxy 2. That's a game I've never completed, but I played a whole lot of and would like to make some more progress on it in my video game life over here. So a game I'm excited to have as an opportunity to play. They're selling these together as a bundle, I believe for $70, or you can buy them separately, each for $40. So that's pretty nice if you do own 3D All-Stars already, and there's not any really other reasons to play the new version of Galaxy, but unless there are some updates. But also I think this could be a cool one to get a physical version of, so I'm going back and forth. I definitely want to pick up Galaxy 2 at some point, so maybe at least buying that digitally, but I could see myself picking up a physical copy of this at some point. And then I don't think they mentioned this is going to be limited, so hopefully they're going to keep this game around for a while, because that was a pretty wild thing to do, to release those game limited for a while. I think it's kind of the only game they've done that for, and I think is the only explanation is they wanted to be able to sell it again in the future. So we will see. So Mario Galaxy 2 coming to Switch 2, or coming to Switch. Yeah, coming to Switch on Switch 1 and 2 on October 2nd. All right, so a couple new games that have been announced. So those were kind of all updates and a remaster, or like a re-release or a port kind of thing. But some new games announced. One is Mario Tennis Fever, so a new Mario Sports title, a new entry into the Mario Sports franchise. Mario Tennis, so Mario Tennis Fever, announced and releases on February 12th, 2026 for Nintendo Switch 2. This game will be $69.99 US. Join Mario and friends for over-the-top tennis mayhem. Use top spins, slices, lobs, and other familiar shots, along with other fancy footwork and new defensive maneuvers to outpace your opponents on the court. Keep a rally going, build up your fever gauge, and unleash powerful fever shots that can be augmented with special effects by equipping fever rackets. Freeze the court with the ice racket, summon mushrooms that shrink opponents with the mini mushroom racket, duplicate yourself with a shadow racket, and more. Mix and match 30 different fever rackets with 38 playable characters, the most in series history, to find a strategy that works for you. Serve up casual or competitive play in a variety of game modes. So I do think all that talk from them, the back of the box talk, was a lot, but I think most of that was true and actually really cool. I think they nailed everything here you'd want in the game. They have the different types of shots that you can do, talking about the top spins and slices. And they talk about I think all the fever stuff was pretty cool. They have a fever gauge, which is like building your ultimate. And then I think some of the effects of like being able to freeze the court, I think are kind of new and innovative. I don't know if they've done that before, but being able to freeze the court so that your opponent is slipping around or making them smaller on the side of the court, I think some of that's kind of cool. It's kind of a little bit like a mashup of Mario Kart kind of effects in there, and I think it's extremely cool. So I think this could be a a great entry and maybe one of the best. I think it has the potential to be one of the greatest Mario Tennis games ever. And I think people like the 64 one a lot. And I think the games are pretty good in general. I think the base mechanics of playing Mario Tennis are fun. And if they can make some exciting things around the outside of it, I think this is a great opportunity for them to do so. So this one looks extremely cool. I don't know if this one could be a pickup for me just based on the time of year it releases. It's usually a slower time, middle of winter, and you might be looking for a new video game to play. And this could be one that I could see myself playing, especially with some of the modes they talk about having. I think some of even like the trick shot modes look kind of cool, like the competitive challenges. Kind of reminds me of like Madden practice things they used to have, where you like were throwing the balls at targets and kind of running through the combine and things like that. It kind of looked like a little bit of those kind of mini games and things. So it looks pretty fun. Mario Tennis Fever has been announced and it's going to release on February 12th, 2026, which is only a few months away if you're listening in real time. So it'll be here before we know it. All right, so what else has been talked about or announced in the Nintendo Direct? So we're talking about some games that have been announced, some new ones. This one looks extremely cool, something I think I could see myself wanting to play, and that's Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. So this has been announced. Join Yoshi for a new adventure launching on Nintendo Switch 2 in spring 2026, and no official date, but just spring of 2026. One day, on the island where Yoshi and his friends live, a peculiar talking book named Mr. E suddenly falls from the sky. So definitely some Paper Mario vibes here when I was feeling those. This peculiar book's pages contain information about unusual creatures, so Yoshi decides to jump in and help investigate. As Yoshi wanders through the book, you'll make all sorts of discoveries about the creatures you find, and those discoveries will be written down. You'll find lots of unusual creatures residing within the book. A page-turning adventure awaits. So this definitely had some, I don't know if it was like Poochie's Woolly World or the Yoshi. I don't know. I guess that's Kirby's Epic Yarn, but this definitely has a really cool art style to it. It looks a little bit reminiscent of Super Mario World, maybe a little bit of like that Poochie's kind of design, or maybe a little bit of the kind of the Kirby design, I guess. I think it just looks extremely cool. I don't know if this one's going to be generally kind of an easier title. I think some of the Yoshi games recently have been on the easier side. I think the one released for Switch was, and I think there was one for Wii U. Well, I think the one for Wii U is actually pretty good. So maybe it's more of a return to that. If it could play something more like Yoshi's Island or like a Mario platformer, I would be completely sold. And then if it's a little bit like a Mario platformer with some Paper Mario vibes to it, I'm completely sold on. So I think this one will be a day one purchase for me whenever it gets an announcement. And this was I think this might have been one of the most pleasant surprises for me for this whole show, because I've really been into platformers lately. And getting a platformer that I've been wanting to play again, Mario Galaxy 2, or play some more of. Getting an update to DK Bananza, even though I was down on that, at least that's an update to a platformer. So the platformer fans like myself are having a lot of good options out here, and I think Yoshi and the Mysterious Book is one to keep your eyes on, and I think this was one of the highlights of the entire Direct for me. All right, another game that was a highlight from the Direct for me, which is a franchise that I have completed a game in this series. Not the most recent one, but I've completed 2 back. And this is a new one coming. I think this one looks extremely cool. Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave. There was a little bit shown of this. It looks extremely cool, so please go watch the Fire Emblem trailer for yourself. There wasn't, I don't have too many specifics on what's going on with the story or whatever, but they say the heroic games have begun. A brand new entry in the Fire Emblem series is set to enter the arena, coming to Nintendo Switch 2 in 2026. So the last Fire Emblem game was Engage from 2023. That's the one that I played a lot of, and I think I just got underleveled drastically and was not able to really proceed. I think I was kind of down on the story a little bit in there, even though I think the story's not the whole slice of the pie, or definitely not even half of the slice of the pie there. The fun of Fire Emblem is the characters are cool and the gameplay is extremely fun, but the story, you want it to at least be, I was kind of laughing at the story and engage a little bit with the main character, but maybe it's something I can go back and overlook and just kind of focus more on, or I should focus on leveling a little more than I did, maybe laughing at the story, but we'll see. I could see myself going back and playing some more Engage. It's kind of on the list of games that released on the Switch 2 that I need to go back and revisit at some point. But Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, I think just from the style of this one, it looks extremely cool. I think I could see myself wanting to pick this one up on day one. And I think I do have some love for the Fire Emblem franchise, and it's one that I need to try out some more of the games over time and over my video game life over here. So that was another new game announced in the Direct, Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave. All right, let's see here. A couple more things to tell you about. This one's something coming to Nintendo Classics, and this one's a pretty cool announcement. I don't know if I have any affinity for this or nostalgia, and I don't know if I'll see myself participating in this, but I think it's cool in general, and that is Virtual Boy is coming to Nintendo Classics and also getting some physical hardware because you need that with the Virtual Boy. So experience the Virtual Boy with this add-on accessory that is a replica of the original hardware. Simply insert your Nintendo Switch 2 or Nintendo Switch system, each sold separately, into the accessory and get ready to play classic Virtual Boy titles like Telero Boxer and Galactic Pinball. Additional titles will be added in the future. So if you do not know what Virtual Boy is, and if you want to, you heard that description there, you really are going to take your Switch out in the handheld, you're going to take it off the Joy-Cons, you're going to insert it into this machine, you're going to look through it, and you're going to be able to play the Virtual Boy games in there. So it's pretty interesting, pretty cool, pretty gimmicky, and I think a lot of people are just going to want to buy this to have it in their game room or put it somewhere cool where they want to display it. Maybe try it from time to time, but definitely go check it out. This looks cool, and this will introduce Virtual Boy to a lot of people. Even me, I'm an older gamer, but I'm not going to say I'm not old enough for Virtual Boy, but I guess I'm really not. And a lot of people will be learning about this for the first time, and I think that's cool. So the original release of this was 1995. So that could have been in some of my video gaming area territory, but I really didn't know anybody with the Virtual Boy, or I really didn't have any knowledge of it till maybe more in my recent life. So original release in 1995, the 32-bit tabletop portable video gaming system was developed and manufactured by Nintendo. It was promoted as the first system capable of rendering stereoscopic 3D graphics. So this new Virtual Boy, this product can be purchased by those. This is what they want to make sure that you're aware of. This product can be purchased by those who have a paid Nintendo Switch Online membership. So you got to think of it like those GameCube controllers, those SNES controllers, the NES controllers. I think they have Genesis controllers that you can buy that you can buy to play. But to be able to access these games or to go on there and hit the purchase, you got to be a online member. And I think you have to be an expansion member too. So to play the games in the Virtual Boy Nintendo Classics, you will need an active Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pack membership. The Nintendo Switch Lite is not compatible. So Switch 1 and Switch 2 Virtual Boys will be available on February 17th, 2026 for Nintendo Switch plus online and expansion pack members. So they definitely add that in there a few times so you know. The Virtual Boy will cost $99.99, and the Virtual Boy cardboard model will cost $24.99. So it's kind of the more Labo version over there, the cardboard model. But pretty cool thing. They're definitely gimmicky, but I think they do a good job of these gimmicky things, and I think they make a lot of older fans happy, and then they introduce some of these things to the new fans here. So I think they are serving a cool purpose here with this re-release of the Virtual Boy. And just building out the Nintendo Switch Online, especially the expansion pack side, has a lot of good content in there if you want to go play some old Nintendo games. All right. Nintendo Direct. So let's talk more about some third-party stuff here to end out the Direct that was talked about. This next one is a game, Hades 2. This game has been in early access for over a year, I would say. And the big announcement here is we have a release date for the full version. So this game is going to release on Switch 1 and Switch 2 September 25th. So that's, just over a week away. Digitally and physically. So digitally on September 25th and physically on November 12th. So no Xbox or PlayStation at this time. So this is a release date announcement after some time in early access on PC. So this game will be available on PC, Switch 1 and Switch 2 exclusively for a bit of time. So pretty interesting. It's going to be $29.99 US. Battle beyond the underworld using dark sorcery to take on the Titan of Time in this bewitching sequel to the award-winning roguelike dungeon crawler. The first ever sequel from Supergiant Games builds on the best aspects of the original godlike roguelike dungeon crawler and an all-new action-packed, endlessly replayable experience rooted in the underworld of Greek myth and its deep connections to the dawn of witchcraft. So this game has an extremely cool art style. I think the cutscenes a little bit look like Persona 3 Reload's cutscenes, and I mean that just in like a really, really favorable way. It's just hitting kind of like it's a blend between like anime and cartoony, and just I guess anime is cartoons, but I guess it's leaning a little more on the anime style, but not full anime. It's kind of what I'm trying to get at, but it's just extremely cool, and I think this one has I think it looks amazing. Hades 1, I think I was a little bit late to the hype train there. I played it a little bit after people were all hyped about it and did enjoy my time with it, but just one of those games I never completed. It's definitely a hard game, and this is one I've been wanting to play, but waiting for it to come out on Switch. So I'm be excited to play this. This might be one I pick up right away, but everyone's going to have the option to play Hades 2 on Switch on September 25th. That is the news there. All right, we got a confirmation on the release date for Final Fantasy VII Intergrade. So this is the port of that game to Switch 2. And the release date is confirmed to be January 22nd, 2026. So this is a game that I've actually completed and really enjoy. And I've been making my way through Rebirth some and need to get back to that game eventually. But Final Fantasy VII Intergrade is going to be $39.99 US dollars. I think that's a pretty nice touch. I think they easily could have charged the full price here, but I'm really not sure why they're only charging $40 US dollars for this game. It's going to be a physical game key card. It's going to be a game key card, and then it's almost 90 gigabytes to install this, so taking up a big chunk of your Switch hard drive over there for this game. But Final Fantasy VII Intergrade retells the original story up to the escape from Midgar with breathtaking visuals, fast-paced gameplay, and additional story elements. This also includes Final Fantasy VII Episode Intermission, which is a side story starring Yuffie Kisaragi that offers a fresh perspective running in parallel to Cloud's journey. So you do get introduced to Yuffie, or I did, in Rebirth, and thought she was extremely cool. So having her as a character in the first game for some DLC sounds like something I might want to play myself. So I could see myself playing this again on Switch because I've heard this runs really well. I had a lot of fun with this game. I do think this game could be replayable in some ways, and having this game on handheld, kind of like Persona 3 Reload, is just going to be an extremely nice touch and a really a luxurious benefit of having a Switch 2, being able to play some of these great games in handheld and maybe go back to them. And then I would love for Rebirth to get added on here, Metaphor, and some other games that I would like to go play more and possibly try to complete in the future. But Final Fantasy VII Intergrade coming to Switch 2 on January 22nd, 2026. All right, and then I guess the last big announcement of the show was that Resident Evil Requiem is coming to Switch 2. So pretty impressive, trying to get that's a pretty giant third-party game coming to Switch 2, and you got to hope that it's going to run well. It's not going to run as well as the PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X or S, but if it's a formidable port or version of the game, and if you have the handheld option on there, I think it's going to be an extreme success. I know Nintendo has had some success with Resident Evil on their platforms in the past, and have been a great way to play some of these games, and hopefully that's going to be a return to form here. So Resident Evil Requiem is the brand new game in the Resident Evil franchise, and they showed a brand new trailer, and confirmation will be released on Nintendo Switch 2, and that's alongside the other versions. So releases on February 27th, 2026. They also announced that Resident Evil 7 Biohazard and Resident Evil Village will be released on Switch 2 the same day as well. So that's the last two, I guess, the mainline entries in the series. So that's 7 and 8. And the Resident Evil Requiem is technically the 9th. So no price shown currently. This will be the 9th title in the mainline Resident Evil series. And prepare to escape death in a heart-stopping experience that will chill you to your core. Technological advancements combined with the development team's depth of experience combined in a story with rich characters and gameplay that's more immersive than ever before. So perfect for getting spooked out there. I think Resident Evil is a franchise I would like to play some more of as time goes on. I've completed Resident Evil, I think 6 is the one I've completed. Maybe it's 5. It's either 5 or 6, and I think I've completed it twice. But I would like to complete 4 at some point. I've heard those remakes of 2 and 3 are excellent, and then some of these newer ones people think are excellent, but I'm a little bit of a chicken, a little bit scared of some of these games, but I think they're extremely cool. I think the gameplay in them is fun. I think they do some pretty outlandish things, a little more kind of on the Mortal Kombat side of things, or not, I don't know, that grotesque, but just kind of, so outlandish where it's not as disturbing. And I think they do a good job of that, but I think there's also some more disturbing stuff in Resident Evil as well that I have to toughen up to before I would play. But I think it's interesting that this is coming to Switch 2, parallel with the other platforms, and I think is a good trend where I've been down a little bit since the release of Switch 2 on the third-party performance, but I think some of the stuff has been performing well, and I think there are some good reports out there of some other good ports coming, and hopefully we'll be seeing. Hopefully it'll just be more third-party capable than I've been thinking. I had some pretty good hope for it. I think those were dampened, and I think they're kind of going back up now a little bit with some of these third-party games coming to Switch 2, and hopefully that trend will continue. So that is everything I have from the Nintendo Direct. I think it was a pretty great Direct overall. It was fun watching 60 minutes of Nintendo ads and promotions and things they're trying to sell, because I'm a big fan of Nintendo and just video games in general. So please go watch that showcase if you would like to see the entire thing. There's definitely some games I didn't talk about, and maybe some things that you'd be really interested in, but those were all the heavy hitters according to me, and all the things that I'll be following along with the most. So we talked about from the Nintendo Direct, Pokemon Legends E3A, Pokemon Pokopia, Donkey Kong Bonanza, That's the DK Island and Emerald Rush DLC. We talked about Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, Mario Tennis Fever, Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, The Virtual Boy, Hades 2, Final Fantasy VII Intergrade, and Resident Evil Requiem. So that's everything from the Nintendo Direct. And that was the main majority of the news I have for you this week, but there was a couple of other things I want to tell you about. Two other things, actually. Just one's a release and one is a release date kind of update thing. So Borderlands 4 is the game that's been released currently. It released last week on September 12th for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and Windows. The developer Gearbox Software, published by 2K. It is $69.99 US. Borderlands 4 is a mayhem-fueled looter shooter jam-packed with billions of weapons, deadly enemies, and intense co-op action. Break free from a dangerous hidden planet as one of 4 new badass vault hunters. So Borderlands 1 was 2009 and Borderlands 3 was 2019, so a return for this franchise. I think from what I've seen across the internet, this game looks pretty good. I think it's a more toned down version of the Borderlands humor that kind of overstayed its welcome with a lot of people. It was kind of a turnoff, I think, for a lot of people in Borderlands 3 and maybe a few of those other entries. I think some of that stuff is still here, but generally in this game, the shooting looks fun. The guns are cool. I think if you have people to play with, I think that really kind of boosts the value for this game. Playing in co-op, I think, is a great experience in Borderlands, but this game definitely feels like a blast from the past. You know, I had a lot of fun with this back in 2009, and even watching Giant Bomb play this, it definitely felt a little bit of a blast from the past. So I don't know how well this game will sell with new fans, if it's just kind of living on its past hype and kind of giving us an updated version, but I think it looks like a solid effort. It definitely looks better than I expected it to be, just from being a little bit dismissive of the franchise recently. But when I was watching Giant Bomb play this, Dan Reichert made a funny quip when Borderlands was making some quips, and he goes, the game's Borderlands in right now, and it's like, I kind of immediately understood what he was saying. He was like, that's the thing you really don't want from the game, and it definitely hits it with you sometimes, but it seems like it's hitting it with you less. And I think the original charm it had, it kind of just got overtaken with a little more cringe, I think is kind of what it went to, and I think there's a little bit of that left, but maybe less of it. Looks like a pretty good entry. I think the price on this will go down eventually. Maybe be a chance for me to pick it up later down the road would be my guess. But Borderlands 4 is released right now. If you're a longtime fan, or if you're someone looking in to get, if you like playing I don't know how many first-person shooters you can go play that are looter shooters that have like a good story and things like that. I guess you would think about things like Destiny, but those are a little more online. But I think this one's kind of in the same vein. I guess maybe a little bit of a precursor to some of the Destiny stuff I was even thinking about. But I guess maybe those games came out around the same time in general. But maybe a little bit of crossover in the fans, I guess, is what I was thinking with there. So Borderlands 4 is available now. All right, the last thing I want to tell you about, this is a game I played the demo of and thought was extremely cool. This one's definitely high on my radar of games I want to play or purchase at some point, and that is Mina the Hollower. So the announcement here is that there is a PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S version confirmed alongside the Switch and Steam launch date already. So PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S were not confirmed for this game yet, and they have been. So Yacht Club Games announced this last week. This game is going to release on Halloween, so 10/31/2025. No price has been shown yet, but I'm guessing it's going to be in the $19.99 to $29.99 range. And in this game, you take control of Mina, a renowned hollower hurtled into a desperate mission to rescue a cursed island, whip foes, burrow through the ground, and explore a pixel-perfect world in Mina the Hollower, a brand new game from the developers who brought you Shovel Knight. And there is a demo available now. I highly recommend going playing that. It was extremely fun, and I think is a perfect sales pitch for the game. And so Mina the Hollower is coming to all platforms on Halloween. It's pretty much the announcement there. So that is everything I have for you for the midsection of all the video game news this week. We talked about everything from the Nintendo Direct I thought was extremely cool. We talked about Borderlands 4 being available now, and we talked about Mina the Hollower getting announced for more platforms. So that is extremely good news there. So that's everything I have for you for the midsection this week. That's all the video game news I have for you, all the video game thoughts. It's going to wrap up this section, but we still have one final section of the show. That is the Miscellaneous Talk section, where I can talk about anything I want to outside the video game world. So please listen to this music and come back for the final section. It's usually pretty short and sweet, and this is an NFL Sunday, so you can get an update on my thoughts for the game today and what happened last week too. So you don't want to miss it. Come back after this music. Welcome back to the final section of Dep Lewis Show, episode 146. This is the Miscellaneous Talk section where I can talk about anything I want to outside the video game world. So I want to get into the worldwide world of sports and tell you what's going on, all my favorite teams, and my favorite NFL team, the Carolina Panthers. They are playing today, but they also had their first game of the season last week, and it was a loss, and it was a debilitating loss. It was a disappointing loss. It was a disheartening loss. It was a sad loss. It was everything you can think of, and a terrible way to come out to start the season. So the Panthers lost last Sunday at Jacksonville at 1 p.m., 10-26, and I don't even think the game was that close. The Panthers scored a touchdown late, and that was their only score of the game, and it was pretty much a beatdown most of the time. So Bryce didn't look very good, which was sad. He was 18 of 35, 154 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, and 1 sack for 12 yards. So at least not a lot of sacks. That's something that I've had to mention on this show a whole lot. After Panthers games have taken a lot of sacks and losing a lot of yards, so at least only 1 there for 12. Chuba he had 16 carries for 57 yards, so nothing spectacular there. Tedero and McMillan, T-Mac, the new rookie, he had some flashes there of looking very good, so that was a nice feather in the cap to this game. I guess it can't be a feather in the cap when it was a poor game, but a silver lining that their first round draft pick was looking like he was living up to the hype. But he had 5 catches for 68 yards, so nothing spectacular there to report either. Trayvon Moehrig he was number 7, and I really wasn't familiar with him, but he was flashing on the screen watching the game even early on. I was like, who is that number 7 guy? He kept making plays, and then even looking at the box score at the end of the game, he was the leader in tackles. He had 11 tackles total and 7 solo. So, shout out to Trayvon out there really making his presence felt and, doing his thing on a defense that really could use some juice and could probably use some more juice. J.C. Horn had a pick, which was nice, but the Panthers took a loss, couldn't put up points, and the offense really was not cooking. And the defense, had historically one of the worst defenses in the league last year. They're looking a little bit better this year, but they're coming up from the bottom of the ground, or the planet's core. If you're playing DK Bananza, that's what the Panthers defense was last year. So looking a little bit better. It's not saying too much, but you gotta commend the improvement at least. But it didn't result in anywhere close to a win, and I don't know how the season's going to be looking. I don't know if they're going to get over those 5 wins from last year. I think it could probably be around that territory, maybe less, is my take on it after that week 1 performance. And hopefully it was just a dud of a performance, but it looked like too many Panthers games that I've watched in the last few years, and just extremely disappointing because that's not fun to watch. It's not fun to watch a football game where you feel completely out of it after the first few series. And the Panthers have had seasons of games like that where you're loyal to your team and you're watching these, but it's just really not fun to watch. And that's how the game was last Sunday, and hopefully it'll be a little bit better today. So the Panthers have a late start today against the Cardinals out in Arizona at 4:05, so about 4 hours away from real time from when I'm recording this podcast. So I have a little more time of my day early on. I do have there's some baseball on early, but more to talk about baseball in a minute. That's pretty much over. So the Panthers, got the Cardinals today at 4:05, and then the Panthers have the Falcons at home in Charlotte next week at 1 p.m. So hopefully we'll be talking about a 1-1 Panthers team next week, but I will have to keep you up to date with that. So the Panthers play today at 4 against the Cardinals. I did win my week 1 matchup in fantasy football, so I'm happy about that. In week 2, I am feeling hopeful, and I'm pretty happy with my team overall, and I'm at least having some decisions to make on my bench players, so I think that's a good position to be in. And I'm going to have some injuries over the course of the season, but luckily right now I'm feeling pretty good with my bench and definitely feeling good about my starting roster of having our chances out there on the fantasy football matchups. So a little update there with the fantasy football. All right, so those are my NFL updates. Go Panthers today, though, as always. For the NBA, nothing going on. It's the offseason. The Charlotte Hornets, I'm a halfway fan since I'm a North Carolina resident. It's the offseason there. The only thing to note there is the preseason begins on October 5th, and the regular season for the Hornets begins on October 22nd, and that's in Charlotte versus Brooklyn. My favorite NBA team, the Atlanta Hawks, offseason as well. Obviously, the preseason for them begins a day later, October 6th. The regular season for them begins on October 22nd, the same day, versus Toronto in Atlanta. And then for baseball, my favorite sport in the universe, my favorite team, the Atlanta Braves, who have been very disappointing. I think the white flag has been waved for their playoff chances for a while. It's not completely official, but this week I think does mark the the end of the season and the end of the attention. I kind of think they should sit as many players as they can and kind of just ride out the end of the season here, hopefully not trying to get anybody hurt, and maybe get a look at some young guys if possible would be my hope here for the Braves. So I think this is kind of this is my obituary to the Braves season right here. It's a little bit early, but I think it's true. Since last week, the Braves played the Mariners last Sunday right at noon. The Braves lost 2-18. So, I mean, a terrible series there against the Mariners. Friend of the show, King Tut, was there watching the games. I'm sure he had fun, but he did not get to see that much good Braves baseball. And a 2-18 beatdown is ridiculous. And they've had too many of those games this year where, not even saying lose them by 16 points, 16 runs, because that should be an outlier all the time. The Braves have had too many games this year where the opponents are putting up a lot of runs. The Braves are having to try to put up a lot of runs, and usually they put up more than 2 in these games, but they've had too many like high-run affairs and too many lopsided affairs, obviously, too, but just a really, really poor season. And it's just really hard to explain of why the season went so poorly. I guess just some of the pitching, I mean, just all the regular things of baseball, but they should have enough parts on their team and players to be doing better. So it's just it's more of they had some injuries, but nothing crazy. I guess it's just something from not paying your pitchers or not really addressing the starting pitching in the offseason. I don't really know. And then the bats just really were kind of underperforming, but you have enough people paid and on the roster that should be able to do that. So, I don't know. It's just been a really, really tough season over here for the Braves. But to start the week, they were playing the Cubs in Atlanta. The Braves won Monday 4-1. The Braves lost Tuesday 1-6, and the Braves lost Wednesday 2-3. So, a bunch of losing. Thursday was an off day. And then the Braves have been playing the Astros in Atlanta this weekend. So Friday versus the Astros, the Braves lost 3-11. So there's a really lopsided effort. And then yesterday, the Braves lost to the Astros 2-6. So not much to really watch here for the Braves. They're not playing for anything. After yesterday's game, they're 65-83. They're 4th in the NL East, and they are one of the 6 worst teams in the entire league. So they are in the company of the Rockies, the White Sox, the Nats, the Pirates, the Twins, and the Braves. So I would say the season is pretty much, you can put a bow on it. So please no more injuries, or please no injuries to end the season. And, be looking forward to next year for the Braves. So they are playing the Astros today at 1:35. Next week, they're playing 4 games at the Nationals. That's a doubleheader on Tuesday, though. So Monday at the Nats, Tuesday doubleheader at the Nats, Wednesday at the Nats, off Thursday, and then 3 at Detroit, up there playing the mighty Detroit Tigers right now. And so after next week, there's one more week to close it out for the regular season for the Braves, and then be on to the postseason for all the other teams. So just a pretty disappointing season, one of the more disappointing ones in recent memory, and I'll be extremely looking forward to next season for the Braves as always, but it's going to be a hard one in the offseason to wonder if they should make some major moves or not, because if they run it back and have similar results, it's going to be infuriating to everybody. And I would lean more to the side where you do want to run it back, but I don't know, even more so recently I'm thinking maybe they should make a few changes. And since they haven't really done much all season. They haven't had any runs recently. Haven't had really too much to hang their hat on. Just a few wins here and there. A few players performing well here and there, but just really, really nothing. A really kind of a wasted season would be how I take it. And, just go Braves, but feeling a little bit down on you. And some of these losses in the last week were really, it was a late wake-up call. I'm like, the season's already over, but it really is over. So that's just something I wanted to say there about the Braves. But they're playing today, so go Braves and go Panthers. And we'll see. I'll tell you next week what happened. Keep you up to date with all my sports teams as always. And that's all the news I have for you this week. That's all the sports talk I have for you. We talked about the Panthers. We talked about the Hornets, the Hawks, and the Braves. No MLB news in general. No other sports news or anything miscellaneous to talk about. So that's going to wrap up the final section of the show. And that's going to wrap up the entire show in general. So I'd like to reiterate some promotional talk from the beginning. Please follow Dep Lewis Show everywhere. Full episodes of Dep Lewis Show available anywhere you can find a podcast. So find the best place to subscribe and listen weekly. Places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Amazon Music, and more. YouTube is also a great place to watch me play some games live or check out the videos later. If you'd like to support the show even further than just listening, patreon.com/Dep Lewis Show is available if you'd like to subscribe monthly. Also, Venmo at Dep Lewis Show is available any day, anytime, for any amount if you would like to support the show. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful week out there in the world. I hope you play a lot of video games. I hope your regular life goes well. I hope you come back and listen to the Dep Lewis Show next week, because that's where I'll be. And just thank you so much for being a listener. And I will talk to you next time. Goodbye.
Say